everybody, I'm A.J. Serna.
And I'm Kiersten Michelle.
And no, we are not just in the holiday spirit today. We had a cozy evening planned, and I'm looking at our fire right now. It's looking quite sad. So our chimney decided, hey, you know what? We're not gonna let the smoke go up inside of me. Our chimney was like, no thank you to that. Instead, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna let smoke billow outward into your home. It has forced us to open all of our windows and live a frigid existence for the foreseeable future. But our loss is your gain, because we're now here to talk about cozy reads, comfort reads, things that make us comfortable and warm inside, like we hope to be very soon.
I made the fire go.
Well done. That was great. That was impressive
It's
work.
going back down.
No, it's not going back down. It'll pick up in a bit, I think. You may want to go blow on it for a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, Oliver, are you going to talk about the books? Is this your favorite book?
Now that has been supposedly, potentially, we'll see, settled, let's talk about some books that we find particularly comforting. Now, I will say these books don't necessarily have to be feel-good reads. All right. Oh, it caught. Yes, I think. Success. I feel like Tom Hanks in Castaway. Even though I didn't do anything, you did it all.
I was like, wait a second, you're the ball.
Anyway, so yeah, it does not have to be particularly bright and happy. Just has to make us feel good. And those can be for very personal reasons. So let's talk about
I tried to be more open and bigger picture for other people.
There you go. Are you talking about me? Bigger picture for me?
No, I'm saying my books. I didn't grab depressing gothics like you.
Well, let's start with my depressing gothic. The Angel's Game by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. If you haven't heard, The Angel's Game is the second book in the, what is it called? For Library of Forgotten Books, I think is what it's called. Actually, I think it might be in here. Anyways, if you're a book lover, which if you're watching this, there's a high probability that you are, you probably will at least find something to enjoy in any book in this series, because it's very much about the joy of reading, and in the case of this one particularly, the joy of writing. I think that's one of the reasons why I like this one a little bit more as well. You also have some ash on your lip right there. I think it's because
I love you keep pointing it out partway through.
because I didn't notice it was on the other side. I think it's partially because this one, it focuses a lot on writing. You follow somebody who is a writer, and you can just take this first opening paragraph, which I'm going to read, to just give an idea of what we're in for. A writer never forgets the first time he accepted a few coins or a word of praise in exchange for a story. He will never forget the sweet poison of vanity in his blood, and the belief that if he succeeds in not letting anyone discover his lack of talent, the dream of literature will provide him with a roof over his head, a hot meal at the end of the day, and what he covets the most, his name printed on a miserable piece of paper that will surely outlive him. A writer is condemned to remember that moment, because from then on, he is doomed, and his soul has a price. Boom, boom, boom. That is good.
I was going to try to hold up our book.
That is good.
It is a beautiful book. It is a gothic horror-ish.
I'd say gothic. I would
It's
say
gothic.
It's a gothic story.
It's absolutely comforting for me, but I imagine other people might not find it comforting.
Right. Very good. I think it's the strongest out of all of the books in the franchise. There's this character who is in the other series who is... I don't like him. He's a little overly quirky, and he's not really present in this book, if I recall, at all, because it takes place decades in the past before the events of all the other books. I like it. It's a bit darker, it's a bit edgier, and it focuses more on the writing aspect than the reading.
No.
It's about a dime store novelist. I think that's what they called it.
In Spain.
Who wrote Penny Dreadfuls or dime store novelists in Spain. Whatever they were doing back then in that part of the world is what he's doing. It's period. And Oliver, please don't knock over the camera.
When I decided to create this video, I was thinking like, what books make me happy when I'm really stressed? Because sometimes you just like are really stressed and you want to read, but then some books are just really stressful. So what books do I read when I'm in a bad mood that just make me happy? And the first book that came to mind is the one I'm literally rereading now. I listen to this book multiple times a year. I read it multiple times a year. And that is Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This is the first book. I just find this book so comforting, which is admittedly perhaps strange considering it starts off with the Earth being exploded.
It's done in a quirky way, so that makes it less awful and dark.
So yeah, it is literally, bad things happen. The stakes are not exactly low, but at the same time, it's done in such this way that the stakes never feel overwhelming. It just feels fun, quirky, the characters are quirky, and you just sink into the universe. And Douglas Adams also does a wonderful job of just exploring humanity through his characters and through the events. I absolutely love it, and will always be my comfort book because it tells me not to panic.
And I've only heard the first few chapters. I've never gotten into it. British humor, generally speaking, is not my thing. Luckily, this book comes equipped with automatic subtitles, so I'm able to understand what everyone is saying. And that's very helpful for me. Otherwise, I have a hard time understanding. Anyway, next up we have Tress of the Emerald Sea. This came out earlier this year. It was it was the first book of Brandon Sanderson's 4 secret projects, and it was probably the most whimsical of the quartet. And it was told through the story of a world hopper named Hoyd, who has been present through various other Cosmere stories. And this one tells the story of a girl who lives upon a rock, doesn't have any aspirations for adventure, and her loving beau is disapparated away, and then so she has to go and essentially go on a ship of pirates and find him. So it's that adventure and what entails henceforth in the story. It's really fun, it's quirky, it's silly.
The stakes are just high enough to be interested without feeling like,
yeah,
oh my
even
god,
though
everyone's gonna die.
There's some pretty dark aspects to it, but once again, kind of like Hitchhiker's Diet, it's done in a quirky way. There's literally scenes where if people inhale the Emerald Sea or get it under their skin, it like explodes them from the inside. So it's dark. It has, like, if you think about it, it's dark, but it's presented in a way that has stakes but is still quirky and cozy.
My next one, similarly, is going to be Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. This book, again, the stakes. It is about the apocalypse. It is about an angel and a demon who get caught up in making the apocalypse happen because heaven and hell want the apocalypse to happen. And they actually decide that they don't really want it to happen because Earth's kind of fun and they're having fun. And if the apocalypse happens, it's going to start a war, and then they have to fight in a war, and they don't want to fight the war. So huge stakes, but done in such this whimsical, quirky manner that it is just a delight to sink into. Again, I've listened to this and read it multiple times. I love it. It makes me so happy. And the characters are fun, even as, you know, there's a hellhound. But it's okay, because the hellhound is very confused about its identity and ends up being adorable. It's very fun. You have not read it. If you're going to have a crap mood and you just need an uplift, read about the apocalypse.
There you go. You heard it here. Probably not first, but you heard it here. I got a duo of books because they're in the same series, and it's nothing new. This is a series that has really taken off in the past year and a half, ever since it was first published, or since the first volume was published. And that is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. It's a cozy fantasy. It's the definition of what we're talking about here. Cozy reads. The stakes, as is indicated by the tagline, which is not actually on this version of the book. It's on the back. A novel of high fantasy and low stakes. Very much indicative. It's about an orc. She goes to a small town, builds a coffee shop, and it's literally about her building the coffee shop and the friends she makes along the way, as well as the progression over time. So those of you who are progression fantasy readers, he does this in a really interesting way. Instead of maybe specific stats increasing, there's like additional menu items. So you still get that sense of progression throughout the story without it being attributed to somebody's specific skill set, which I thought was really clever. And along those same lines, the sequel, Bookshops and Bonedust. This is the second book in the series, and it's different. It's a prequel, and it takes place after the main character gets injured. She has to heal in this small town where she stumbles upon a bookstore. And it's currently, and I'm about halfway through right now, it is about her kind of helping to revive that bookshop. I will say it's currently, as of right now, it still has that cozy feel. It doesn't have that same progression fantasy vibe. It has more a little bit more plot goings on and less about just sort of the mundane day-to-day of...
I feel like I might actually like that one better
Maybe
than
you will.
I did that one.
You might. Because I know you particularly don't like them just going through the motions of, oh, let's gut out the shop. Oh, let's add the coffee maker.
It's like, if you're gonna
let's do this.
that everyday, just day-to-day stuff, I need them to explore humanity. I don't need them to talk about business.
Well, I don't know if this one explores humanity as of yet. There's some interesting plot developments currently happening, but the jury is still out on this one and how I feel. I think my biggest criticism of this so far, and it's still very well written, still very interesting, is that it does fall into, I think, the problem of kind of events just happening because the main character has essentially her leg up and can't really do much. Events are happening. She is proactive in many different ways, but because of her condition, she's not able to just have as much agency as she did in the first one.
The next one is also 2 books. I only have the one here because the other one is way up out of screen. But that is A Song for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. I have talked about this on this channel a lot, and I will continue to talk about it. Oliver, stop sniffing at the fire. This book is the epitome of nothing happens and yet it's amazing. But it is about a tea monk who goes into the wilderness because they are burnt out from listening to people's everyday problems. As a therapist, that spoke to me a lot. And maybe that's why I love this so much. But they go into the wilderness because they're like, I just need to find myself again. And they meet a robot because in this future world on this planet, the robots have half of the planet to themselves. They're in the wilderness doing their own thing because they became sentient and the humans let them be. And so it and they, the monk and the robot, get together. They end up just befriending each other and then going through and exploring. The sequel, they are going through different towns and meeting other people in this world. And it is, like I said, it is an exploration of humanity, which I love. Once again, my therapist, psychologist bias comes out. I love when books explore what it means to be human by talking about people or things that are not human, like a robot. So I really love it. There's 2 books. I really cannot wait. I'm assuming there's more coming out, and I just want all of them.
Nice. Let's go to your last one because I'm out of books.
This is my last one. I have a couple.
Should I just go look for more as you're talking?
So this one is, I'm just gonna hold this up because I don't have the first Murderbot. But the next one I want to talk about is the Murderbot series.
It looked like it was dusty. It's not. It's just the cover.
It's the cover. It's like stars.
Yeah.
So that is the Murderbot series by Martha Wells.
Mostly novellas, right?
It is a bunch of novellas. The newer books coming out are a bit longer, or novels. There's a bunch. I have only read the first 4.
All Systems Red is the first one.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And
So
for the audience.
I have read the first 3 or 4, I think. And this book, once again, it is not cozy in the sense of nothing's happening, everything's lovely. There's some really horrible, bad things happening, people are dying. But it is told through the story of a murderbot who, once again, you're exploring humanity through this robot who is not quite human, but kinda has these human qualities. And I really love it. We heard Martha Wells speak at a convention about it, and the influence of like her autism coming through and how Murderbot talks to people and explores the world and sees the world as this outsider who kind of understands but kind of doesn't. I love it. And the series are just so heartwarming in how they explore once again humanity that even though bad things happen, I just feel at the end, I just feel warm inside having read it. I definitely highly recommend. It's not anything new. Everyone recommends Murderbot. Go out and read it. The next one I do not own because I got it from the library originally, and I already own a bunch of his books. I'll probably own it at some point. But the one I want to talk about is Britt-Marie Was Here, I believe it Was Here, by Fredrik Backman. If you have not read Backman, if you've only read Anxious People, I should say, you need to read more Backman. I absolutely fell in love with Backman after Beartown, and then I read, I think it is, I always say this one wrong, My Grandmother Told Me to Tell You She's Sorry, which I almost put on here, but it makes me cry a little bit too much to be considered heartwarming cozy. But Britt-Marie Was Here is a story about this woman who is so crappy. She is in My Grandma Told Me to Tell You She's Sorry, and she is not a nice woman. She is so mean. And then so you get the standalone of her, and you learn why she's mean, and she is just very unhappy. And the story is her finding happiness by connecting to people, and she ends up really becoming this very warm and loving and caring person who she already was. She just didn't have the chance to. So I absolutely love it. I'm seeing a brand here. I feel like I either like quirky, apocalyptic fiction when I'm in a bad mood, or heartwarming, let's talk about world and life and people. But yes, so I absolutely loved that one. Highly recommend it. Really, I recommend any Backman. I have not read Anxious People. I have not heard... I don't think I would like Anxious People. I will probably end up reading it.
I hate Anxious people too. They're really annoying, sorry.
I don't need to read about myself.
Anyway, so I got one. The one I'm going to share, that's my last one, is actually a manga series. It's called Yotsuba and, or Yotsuba. I don't know specifically how it's pronounced in English because I never heard anyone actually say it in English. Usually just say Yotsuba. Anyways, this is the epitome of just warm. Like, the epitome of warmth. It is about a girl who's probably like 3 or 4, maybe a little bit younger. She moves to a new place with her dad, and it's just her... It's just like literally like watching a child as she discovers things. For example, one of the first scenes in it is literally after they move, where she wakes up and freaks out because she doesn't recognize where she is because she just moved into there. And it's just her discovering things, making friends with the neighbors, and then when you have a younger sibling or like a younger relative, you mess with them, but like also teach them things and stuff. It's like, it's kind of like that. They play pranks on her, but they're also really nice about it. No, they're nice about it. They're nice about it. Like
their siblings are stupid.
One of them pretends is like in a robot suit, or like, just to try this again, a cardboard box as a robot suit, and pretends to be a robot, and things like that. Harmless things like that. Nothing happens in this. It's from the writer of Azuma, which is really, I guess, influential anime and manga. And so if you like something that's just really the epitome of slice of life, Yotsuba it's now available. It's been available. It will forever be available at your local Barnes & Noble.
Forever be available? I don't know if you can promise that.
I can't promise that. I don't know what I'm thinking.
Okay, and then the last book I want to talk about, which is another one that I feel like if you've been on BookTube or Bookstagram for any amount of time, this is not going to be one you haven't heard of. But I need to put it on there, because why not? House on the Cerulean Sea. We have a disagreement about this book. I
got halfway through it and I threw in the towel. It got boring.
I understand that you were bored. It is slow.
It wasn't slow. It was that there were like several repeated conversations. But continue. However.
The ending is just so good. The characters are so good. And it is just a feel-good, quirky character developing story. And pieces in it that do, the tension, the stakes in it that are there, I think once again are handled in a way that just feels okay and warm, and like you know it's going to be okay in many ways, even though you're like, I hope it's going to be okay, but I think it's going to be okay, but I hope it's going to be okay. So I really loved it. Ironically, also has the Antichrist in it. 2 of these books that I've mentioned have the Antichrist in them. Does that say something?
It's a trend. It's definitely a trend. What that trend means is, I don't know who decides.
As a psychologist, I can't actually analyze myself, so I need another therapist or psychologist to come here and analyze me.
Yes, send us an email. Anyway.
That's it. So this is not a complete list. I don't think this was a very thrown together list, but these are the books that I read when I'm in a bad mood. So when the next time you're like, I just really want to read something, but if I read Fourth Wing or, I don't know, you're like, this just makes me stressed. It stresses me out. These are the books that don't stress you out, and they'll make you happy, and they're great.
I can't guarantee that on my end, especially for Angel's Game, but...
Yeah, Angel's Game did not make me happy,
well,
but
it comforts me specifically, and that's what this list is all about. So, what about you? What comforts you specifically? Let us know in the comments down below. And yeah, that is it. That is the end of this video. Thank you so... What was that?